Hey guys, Howlet Saber here. It's been a while, but I'm back. I'm gonna use this video as a get a life video, but it's actually a clip from my wave attempts, and basically what that is that I have to get to, or I have to finish all the waves on hard. Oh, excuse me, a burp. Hard mode, solo forest, no crawler, and so I have to beat all 20 waves. But of course, I'm using this as a get a life video because I couldn't do that. And so this one ends at wave 19, which is infuriating on my part, but also it's just a bit above what I usually get, which is I get to about wave 18 and then I just kind of flop out somehow. I don't know, every time it's always really just bad maneuvering on my part, and I can't really blame anything else. The game mechanics are totally fine. But besides the point, let's get on with the get a life. And so I'm gonna pick up right where I left off. And this last time I talked about in-game maturity. If you haven't seen the link yet, then I will link it up in the description below, and so you can go ahead and watch that one before you start off this one. But now that if you just came back, or if you're still here and waiting for me to get started, here I am. So first things first, picking up where I left off, another very big part of maturity, or something that needs maturity if it's going to happen online, is honest relationships. And that means when you're talking with other people online, you expect them to have the same amount of honesty as you do, or you expect the same amount of honesty from them as you would give them yourself. And so a lot of very interesting ideals come into play here, because it's either it's a question of who is the real you, right? And so there's always this theory of people online are all fake because they put on this fake persona and it's not who they really are. And so I beg to ask the question, and some people beg to ask the question actually, is are who we are online who we actually are in real life? Are we more open to being who we really want to be online as compared to when we are in front of everyone else, and where we have to kind of keep this level of showiness for the world? You know what I mean? So like, it's a very bizarre topic to talk about, and a bit abstract of an idea, but it's along the idea of which one is the real you, the person you want to be online, or is it the person that the world kind of makes you to be in real life? And so there is also the possibility of people who make fake personas online on purpose for the act of well, because there's no maturity involved, because they just want to do certain things. And the main reason this came to mind was because there had been a person in particular who got into our guild, and many of you know this, many of you don't. I just won't point names or point fingers, but if you do, then good on you, whatever. But this person came in with this fake persona of being a friendly member, and it turns out they weren't necessarily the most friendly member. They did act like a very big part of the community, and so it does confuse me as to why they would not just be honest with us from the start if they really did enjoy our community. But again, that's just a level of maturity I guess they didn't have or think of before they actually joined our community. And so this person basically put on a fake persona, and then I'm not even sure what their main goal was, but the point was is that they were being very dishonest with us, and we just couldn't trust them anymore. You can't really keep members around that you can't trust, and so they were obviously removed from the guild. And so that also goes with internet relationships of just being friends. So I have a few friends that I've met online, and we play other games together besides AOTTG now. And so again, I only make friends with people with a certain level of maturity, and when maturity isn't present, then people aren't really worth my time, I guess. And I'm not saying that if you lack maturity, you're not important to anyone or important to the human race at all. I'm just saying I wouldn't spend my time trying to make a close relationship with you, because I do not think it's worth it. And that's just personal preference. A lot of people make friends based on the lack of maturity that they have, because it kind of measures up to their own level of maturity. And so usually you'll look for friends with the same amount of maturity as you. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not the most mature person. Most of my other friends can vouch for this as well. I'm very foolish online, and half the times I'll just look around to mess around with games and other people. But besides the point, when certain things arise, I keep a very mature, level-headed awareness about it. And so whenever I look for internet relationships, I look for the same kind of people, the people who can enjoy themselves, know when to joke and when to stop and when to apologize. And for me, that is one of the most crucial things in internet relationships, especially with people over the internet and people online. And so well, that's how I make friends online. Most people just make friends being like, oh, you live in this area, I live in this area too, say word, we're both friends because of our geographical location. Some people do that, that's up to them. And honestly, you can make friends with whoever you like. I'm sure it'll work out the best, so long as there's no like a dishonesty or lying between the two, or any malicious intent whatsoever. And so back to the topic of who is the real you. This kind of goes to the question of IRL versus IGL. And IRL stands for in real life, and IGL stands for in game life. And these are acronyms. One of them exists. The other one I made up. IGL is something I completely made up because of IRL. I'm not sure if it's an actual term. We should make it an Urban Dictionary term if we can, but besides the point. The fake IGLs, because most of the times people don't usually tend to put their real names in their usernames. And so what does that mean? I feel like it means that we either use it to put on another persona of what we want to be, or in many cases it is the persona of what we consider ourselves to be currently. And so of course there's always going to be that one guy with the username Levi or Mikasa or whatever, or Aaron or whatever, but that's probably a persona that they want to give out to the rest of the world, or to the rest of AOTTG specifically. And so it kind of asks the question. So like for example, another name, my guild leader Foxen, he has that name from another game. I'm not sure what it was, but it's a kick-ass name, and it's not his real name, obviously. And so I guess that's not a persona he wanted to put on. That wasn't a persona he wanted to put on for the rest of the world to be impressed with him, but I feel like that was more of a persona he made himself, and it's part of his online persona. It is who he is online now. And so is that the real him, or is the IGL the real? Yeah, the IRL part of him real. And so some people and many many of the older generation would agree with this, is that IRL and IGL, sometimes they're not that different. So all the difference is the name, and besides that, they act the same, and they are the same, and they interact the same way as they would with everyone else. The reason there are different personas, though, especially among the young generation, is because what the internet does is it allows for anonymity. And I'm fairly certain I butchered that word, but when you can be anonymous with what you do and what you say, it creates assholes. And I mean this in the least violent way possible, but it creates people who think they can get away with things they normally wouldn't. And so of course, that because that temptation exists, people are going to go through with it. And that's actually this is where trolling came from, is when people realize that they can't be held accountable for half the stuff they do online. Of course, cyberbullying is now a really big issue, and so there's going to be a bit more enforcement on that. But still, there are people who go out there, and even in AOTTG, I do not think cyberbullying would extend as far as the in-game chats of multiplayer games. And so, because of that, and because it's so widely open that you have no idea who is who, it's hard to judge whether someone's bullying, or even to track it at all. So the anonymity is still there, and the fact that they can get away with it, and that they know that power, that empowers them to do what they do, which is a bit of a bad side to the internet and the multiplayer features. But it also the multiplayer features also allow for great communities to build up. So guilds, clans, all these things are communities. Forums, even the Facebook group that we have for the AOTTG or Fang's game, that itself built a community. There are people there, and I'm not saying it's the greatest community in the world, I'm not saying it's the worst community in the world, but the fact that a community is there still exists. There are also other communities for many other games, such as Facebook games. There's Reddit groups. There's more forum pages like Engine forums or the Fang League forums, where with the game's official forums or whatever. And so there's always community being built with the multiplayer function, or the function of communication specifically between other, like peer-to-peer. And I think that's one of the greatest things about multiplayer, and what the internet has provided for gamers in general, actually. And so back to the point of who's the real you, the real IGL. What do you truly want to be in real life, right? And some people could truly want to be a police officer, and they can achieve that goal, and they can live that through their lives. But some people can't really become what they want to become, because it's either physically an impossibility, B, it's a worldly impossibility, and C, it's just not possible, maybe even financially. So say someone were to really become a US Marine or something like that. I'm Canadian, I don't know why I'm using US Marines, but say they wanted to join the army, but because of the fact that they are, say, colorblind, they cannot join the army, and that's actually an issue. Or say their sight isn't perfect, then they can't join the army. I believe the same goes for police officers as well, or law enforcement in general. The same kind of rules apply. If you're colorblind, you cannot join or join the academy or whatever, and so on. There are like physical restrictions to these. For many people online, it could be a lot of the things they see. So it could be a character from an anime, and I guess in terms of AOTTG, it's, say, Eren or Levi or Mikasa or Petra or any of these other characters that have been portrayed to be badass. People want to live that persona, and so is that they can't do that in the real world, and so maybe that could be what they want to do in the in-game life, and that's what they kind of want to live through. And so is that who they want to be? And I guess this is where we have to separate who you want to be and who you really are. And so I guess like the best way I can describe this description is say there were vigilantes all over the place and they wanted to be Batman, but they have neither the technology nor the money to actually succeed as Batman, a fictional character. And so they have to resort to a lot of other things, and so it may come down to just fighting and just straight out gang wars, and in turn they will never be who they want to be, but who they are is different. Who they are is different from who they want to be. They want to be Batman, but who they are is just now another street thug fighting other street thugs. And so I don't know where I was going with that analogy, but people online can either choose to live a persona that they cannot do physically, or they just live their regular lives through the games. Myself, I don't play the games or pick certain characters because of who they are in the anime or what they mean. I tend to just pick them based on their stats or their abilities. And so for a while I switched back. I remember when I first started playing too, actually, I did want to be a bit more of a badass, so I always played as Levi. But then as I got more competent in the game and I tried to progress in my skill level more than my persona, I began to switch from Levi onto bigger or a bit more slower characters such as Jean. And then after Jean I moved on to Marco, and then from Marco to Mikasa, and then from Mikasa to Petra. And so that was my progression of characters. And that was only because I guess I had matured from wanting to put on a persona of being a badass as compared to just wanting to progress my skill. And so I guess in my final thoughts, both of these personas are true. Who you are and who you want to be are both truths to you. So who you are most of the time. So who you are is sometimes something you cannot change, and it could even be something as like something like gender or sex, or maybe even your sexuality. But that's something you cannot tend to change. As compared to where you go to a game, you can change your name just as easily as you can change your character, your appearance, your stats, your backstory. There's so many things that you can change on the internet with so much freedom that you don't necessarily get in real life, or as often as you would in real life. So that's kind of what you usually have to deal with. And so another big thing is you can start over and over again. This most of us would experience this on more of single player games, is that say you go on a level and then you die, and you get to the boss fight and you die. Then that's not the end of the game. The game's no longer invaluable anymore. You get to play it over and over again until you succeed at what you do. As compared to where in life, say you want to go to university or college and you want to get the good marks in high school, but you can't. You tend to only get one try at high school. You can take another year and hope to bring up your grades, but even then, it's only one chance. You can't restart the game over and over like you would you can't restart life over and over like you would in a game. And so I feel like that level of just being able to try until you succeed gives a lot of satisfaction to, I know it gave a lot of satisfaction to myself, and this is in terms of Kingdom Hearts. I remember the very first game I played was Kingdom Hearts, and I would always be frustrated whenever I lost, but I would never get overly upset about it because I know I could constantly try again. I would get very, very irritated, but again, I would never get fully upset or hate the game in any way just because I died, but because I know I could try again. And the same thing happens with AOTTG. Say you want to get a good high score or something, and you die, no big deal. You can start again. It's all okay. Although in some cases, like Forest 2, you might have to wait a second or two, but that's besides the point. And so I guess my final thoughts are both are true. Both are legitimately true. Your in-game life is who you are and who you want to be without worldly constraints. And it's who you would be if there were no worldly constraints. And I feel like the IRL, well, it's fairly obvious that that's what you are. It's who you are already, and it's something you can change, but it has very little correlation to who your in-game life is. You can attempt to make your life just like an in-game life, but let's be honest, unless the world conforms to your in-game life, you're not going to really fulfill that dream. Unless the world actually has titans in it, you're not going to become Eren or Mikasa. And so that's kind of the way it is. Like even in other games, for example, so like League of Legends, that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the League of Legends. There's no such thing as the Summoner's Rift. People just go in and play the game. There's no actual place where you can go and reenact this stuff. The closest thing you could get is maybe if you were to play a game based on history, you could visit the historical locations of the game that it was the places that the game was maybe based on. So like you can visit Normandy Beach if you were playing Call of Duty, one of the very old ones that focus more on just World War II most of the time. And so besides those, you can't really relive those characters or those personas. And so I think both are true in their own senses. As to which one's more important, that is a bit more of a tricky situation. I would say for the most part, your IRL self is more important than who your persona is online. Mostly because your persona online is limited to just your persona online. There's nothing that your persona online can give you unless you were to become a very popular or famous or well-known person. Maybe like PewDiePie or something like that. But until that happens, your online persona will give you no benefits. You have no benefits from that unless, another burp. Unless, of course, you do succeed in what you're doing. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, in the realistic terms, most of the AOTG players that are really good or have YouTube channels are students. And I prioritize my school over anything else, even games. And so I'm sure they feel the same way. And some of them say that some of them have even announced during school, when school starts back up, that they're not going to be able to be around as much. They're not going to be able to play as much, and therefore not be able to record and upload as much videos. And so I think they're in the same boat as me. They consider their IRL life a lot more important than their in-game life. And in the same way, I'm not saying your in-game life is unimportant or that your friends online aren't important. I consider my friends or the friends I meet in game, if they're just acquaintances, I treat them the same way as I would a game. I cannot make time for you. If there is time, I will play. But there are certain friends that I made offline where they become better friends than just acquaintances, so to speak. And so our friendship goes beyond just the game. It goes into just this relationship that we've had for a long time. And so like I've known this one person for at least 5 years now, and we've talked through a lot of stuff, and yeah, it's interesting. But if they really needed to talk about something, I wouldn't say, no, you're just an in-game friend, I can't make the time. I would make the time. If I was in the middle of studying, I would take a bit of time out and say, okay, what do you need? Because this must be important if you're asking for my help. And so I really encourage you guys to make those friends. Make those friends based on honesty, not about who has better skill or who doesn't. Even if I would make friends with someone who is completely noob at the game. If they did not even know how to use chords, but they were the most honest and integral person and as enjoyable as myself, then I would make best friends with them. I don't care about skill level, because at the end of the day, skill level isn't going to get me anywhere. All it gets me is another 20 views on my videos. And even that doesn't mean too much to me. The only reason I upload these videos is because I feel like it's more for my own self that I want to upload my thoughts to the internet and kind of gauge what the internet thinks about the same things, right? And so that's basically my spiel on in-game maturity, and that's the last part of it. And so yeah, I guess I'm gonna just let this video finish out. You guys can watch the rest of it. It really picks up the gameplay about here because there's a lot more titans I can swing through and kill. I'm not sure if this is the run that I do it in, but I get a few of the runs that I have done for this challenge. I do get a double kill. I'm not sure if it already happened or not, or if I've already attempted. But it does happen in one of the videos. I'm not sure if it's this one. If it's another one, I'll use that one for the next Get a Life video, because it's equally as long. Most of my attempts tend to go 20 minutes because I get to like wave 18 and then I just die. And so yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed my talk. If you guys have maybe topics you want to hear about in Get a Life videos, by all means, please just leave a comment in the section below. If you guys would like to talk to me about possibly being a guest for a podcast, which I'm starting to work up, then again, hit me up. I'll let you know what's a possibility or if it's not. And so I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the video.